I am Coach Sess, motivated and determined, and you are listening to Words with a Mad Coach. Fight fans, coaches, teammates, mad people, this is Coach Sess. We are going to take a look at the upcoming local event, XFP, that's going to be held in Smithfield, North Carolina this coming up weekend. Headlined by Travis Holloman taking on Terrence Luines. Before we break down the main event, let's take a look at some of the names on the card. Harry Coltrane, let's get tuning. Mike Lyons against Quintez Sapp. Some other fights that I like. Kenny Hill taking on James J. Brown. Kel Bay against Eugene Seppa. James Hurd is on the card. Don Terry Woods versus Kyle Wright. Quality big man matchup. Samantha Seth taking on Karma Radford. Let's take a look at the main event with Holloman taking on Terrence Luines. They've both been off for quite some time. Travis has not fought in about a year and a half, and Terrence hasn't fought in about 2 years. You know, this is a tough fight. I think previously they had Holloman against a different opponent who I thought that did not present all the elements that he needed to take a win away from Travis. But I think Terrence has some unique qualities. This is still a fight, in my opinion, where Travis is his own worst enemy. He can lose this fight by not taking Terrence seriously, but I don't think that's what he's going to do. But there's still some things he has to watch out for. When I look at the pedigree of both fighters, Travis does have more experience as a pro. The combined record of his opponents, a lot more experience in what he's faced. Terrence has, a better ratio in terms of their wins and their losses, but Travis just has so much more experiences. A lot of his opponents were well educated in the fight game, and he was able to overcome a lot of that. He only has 2 losses, one as an amateur, one as a pro, and Terrence has 2 losses going into his pro debut. Travis has lost both of those fights by way of some type of KO, and Terrence has lost both of his fights by some way of a submission. Travis has better submission skills, better wrestling. I think if Travis puts Terrence on his back, that's where the fight lives and he can finish him. However, Terrence has fought at 85, has fought at 70, so he's a little bit bigger, more athletic guy. He's younger. I wouldn't take the chance of having an exchange with him. Sometimes that's what happens with fighters. They see something from a different perspective and think, I can knock this guy out. When Terrence has run up against bigger guys, he's been hit, pushed around, but not necessarily smaller guys. I don't think that'd be the smartest strategy for Holloman to go in trying to knock this guy on his feet just to make a point. I do think that if he sits back in the cut and counters Terrence the same way that Paris Artist did when he fought him, that you're going to strike better and you're going to get better results rather than trying to take the lead. Let Terrence put himself out there, counter him in the middle, and then find a way to get him to the clinch, get him to the ground. I would not try to shoot open mat style just because he does have Derek Brunson and a lot of other good wrestlers, so he may be ready for that. But I think you get him against the cage, rip his legs out from under him, you should be fine. Let's give Terrence some credit here. Terrence reminds me of an opponent that was able to successfully defeat Holloman, and that is Marcus Flood. Similar record, similar in terms of the opponents that they faced, similar in build as well. So the the secret is that Terrence needs to go in here and basically be the young man. Surprise Travis, jump on him. Don't sit back in the cut trying to counter, but go in with a technical barrage, overwhelm him, push him back, let the fight happen. Get Travis to make some poor choices, get him to swing with you a little bit. I think that if he goes in there, he's the bigger guy. He forces a little bit of a scramble fight. He could walk away with the win. I don't know how much time Terrence has had to prepare for this fight, but if he was given, I would say 3 weeks at least, if he has 3 weeks notice, that he could, walk away with the win. The only other thing that might be a little suspect is the weight class. So Terrence has been at 85 and 70, and everything that I've seen on Travis, he's done at 55. So this fight's at 55. I think Terrence is going to have one heck of a weight cut. And again, that's if he took this fight on short notice. If he's been training for the last 2 years, preparing himself to get down to 55, and he is about 5'10". So if he's been doing that, then I think that he stands a good chance of walking away with this win in his back pocket against Travis Holloman. So Terrence is not only the bigger man going in here, but he's had bigger opponents facing him. So I just don't think it's a smart idea to stand and bang with a guy who can take the heavyweight power. And getting back to my similarities of Flood had roughly this 3 title shots, been used to training for longer rounds, longer time frames, and he was able to defeat Holloman. And I think that Terrence Luines is going to follow in those footsteps and borrow that strategy, borrow that blueprint a little bit. And and I think Flood was able to stop Holloman, so Travis is gonna, hopefully he's over that demon and he doesn't relive it in the fight. When things start to seem a little bit familiar to him, your brain has a tendency to drift back to an earlier time frame and borrow elements that bothered you from that previous history. And I hope he doesn't relive it in the cage, that he's losing the fight or that it's not going to work out for him. I think this is his second chance to overcome it, fight his demons. I think his pedigree again is deeper in terms of who he trains with, in terms of his wrestling, in terms of his jiu-jitsu, in terms of experience. I think he's fought better fighters overall, and I think if he leans on that experience, then he should walk away with the win. And I think that's what he's going to have to do. It's just, again, this is a fight where Terrence Luines wants to make this a short-term fight, the first 2 to 3 rounds, and Travis Holloman wants to make this a long-term fight and go the distance, and he'll submit him in the distance. But I think if he goes chasing it, he won't get it. I am Coach Sess. That is my quick look at the upcoming event, XFP Hometown Heroes, Smithfield, North Carolina, Saturday, January 20th.